Radio Migrante every Sunday night from 9 to 10 p.m. on CHRY 105.5 FM.
At andito po tayo sa CHRY 105.5. Si Pet Cleto po ito. Tuloy-tuloy ang buong buwan ng Agosto bilang paggunita sa buwan ng wikang Pilipino. Kung napansin niyo po ay nag-iba tayo ng ating intro song. Sa buong buwan po ng Agosto bilang bahagi ng pagdiriwang ng buwan ng wika, bibigyan daan natin ang iba't ibang musikang Pilipino na siyang magiging panimulang awit ng ating programa. Kaya sa ating mga tagapakinig ng Radyo Migrante sa loob at labas ng Canada, patuloy lang po kayo sa inyong pakikinig at pagtataguyod sa ating radyo. Ngayong araw na ito ang pagdiriwang sa Prisoner Justice Day, kung kaya ang Radyo Migrante ay nakikiisa sa inyo at patuloy na nananawagan para sa katarungan para sa lahat ng biktima ng di makatarungang pagkakulong. Patuloy nating isinisigaw, palayain ang lahat ng bilanggong politikal sa Pilipinas at sa buong daigdig. Kasama ko po ngayong gabi sina Ish, Louie at Mary. Bumati muna kayo.
Magandang gabi, Tito Pet, Ish and Mary, no? At sa lahat ng tagapakinig ng Radyo Migrante at sa mga sumusubaybay din sa atin, maging sa Radyo Migrante Facebook page. Pagsaludo po sa pagdiriwang ng Prisoner Justice Day, palayain ang lahat ng bilagong politikal. At dagdag pa po sa sinabi ni Tita Pet, sa buwan po ng Agosto ay tuloy-tuloy nating tatalakayin ang iba't ibang usapin na hindi nabanggit ni Bias Aquino sa nakaraang sona. Kabilang po dito ang sektor ng kababaihan, kabataan, maralitang tagalunsod, magsasaka, manggagawa, at pati na ang mga migranteng manggagawa. Sa madaling salita po ay ang naghihirap na sambayan ng Pilipino.
Sa programa natin ngayong gabi ay tatalakayin naman natin ang kwento ng isang caregiver na nanganganib na mapauwi sa Pilipinas dahil sa pagtanggi ng gobyerno ng Canada na bigyan siya ng permanenteng status. Pagkaraang makumpleto niya ang 2 taong rekisito para mabigyan ng tinatawag na open work permit. Maya-maya sa talakayan, makakasama natin ang ating bisitang panauhin na si Lilia Joaquin kasama ang kanyang abogado na si Attorney Jennifer Stone.
At sa Pulso ng Migrante, pakikinggan natin ang mga nakalap na iba't ibang mga pananaw na mga na-interview natin sa mga kalye ng Toronto at sa iba't ibang lugar dito sa Canada hinggil sa kalagayan ni Lilia Ordinario Joaquin.
Pero bago yan, ito muna ang ating news and headlines, ang ating mga pangunahing balita. Mary?
Vice President Binay, tutol na pahabain ang termino ni Pinoy. Tinawag ni Vice President Jejomar Binay na selfish moves at politically divisive ang mga mungkahing binigyan ng pagkakataon si Pangulong Benigno Noynoy Aquino III na makatakbong muli sa 2000 presidential elections. Nitong Biyernes, sinabi ni Binay na ang planong patagalin sa kapangyarihan si Aquino ay bunsod ng pansarili at hindi pambansang interes. Sa ilalim ng kasalukuyang saligang batas, nakasaad na isang termino lang sa palasyo ang Pangulo na tatagal lamang ng 6 na taon. Nahalal na Pangulo si Aquino noong 2010 at magtatapos ang kanyang termino sa 2016. Kamakailan lang ay pinahayag ni Interior Secretary Marojas ang napipisil ni Aquino bilang pambato sa 2000 elections na nais niyang mabigyan ng pagkakataon si Aquino na magtagal sa pwesto para maipagpatuloy nito ang mga pinapatupad na reforma sa pamahalaan. Samantala, ikinukonsidera na naman ng isa pang kaalyado ni Aquino na si Caloocan City Representative Edgar Irice na maghain ng panukalang batas para baguhin ang konstitusyon upang mabigyan ng layang Pangulo na makatakbo sa 2016 elections. Sinabi ni Binay na naniniwala siya na hindi tatakbong Pangulo muli ng bansa si Aquino, gaya ng naging desisyon noon ng pumanaw nitong ina na si dating Pangulong Cory Aquino.
At sa susunod na balita, 2 alumni ng Universidad ng Pilipinas dinukot sa Nueva Ecija. 2 alumni ng Universidad ng Pilipinas Diliman Extension Program sa Pampanga ang iniulat na dinukot nitong Sabado, Agosto 9 sa Barangay RT Padilla, Karanglan, Nueva Ecija. Sina Gerald Jerry Salonga at Giler Martin Cadano, pawang mga kabataang organisador ng Anakbayan sa Central Luzon, ay iniulat na dinukot ng mga elemento ng 3rd Infantry Battalion ng isang nakasakay sa pulang van at ang 2 pang nakasakay sa puting pick-up trucks bandang 3:00 ng hapon. Sa Facebook page ni Salonga, nang katatapos lamang magdiwang ng kanyang makaarawan nitong Hulyo 3, nagpakilala siyang pangrehiyong tagapagsalita ng Kabataan Party List Organization. Si Salonga ay naninirahan sa Mabalacat, Pampanga. Ayon kay Eco Dangla, Secretary General ng Bayan sa Central Luzon, magsasagawa sila ng isang fact-finding mission sa Karanglan, Nueva Ecija upang imbestigahan ang mga nawawalang estudyante at alamin kung sino may kagagawan sa pagdukot sa 2 estudyanteng organisador. Matatanda ang noong Hulyo 20 sa East 2006, 2 estudyanteng taga-UP na sina Karen Empeño at Sherlyn Cadapan ay pinaghihinala ang dinukot ng mga elemento ng Armed Forces of the Philippines sa ilalim ng pamumuno ni General Jovito Palparan. Hanggang sa ngayon, nananatiling nawawala pa rin ang 2 estudyante, samantala ay nagtatago si Palparan. Ayon pa rin kay Dangla, tuloy-tuloy pa rin ang sistematikong paglabag ng Estado sa karapatang pantao sa ilalim ng Administrasyong Benigno Simeon Aquino III. Ang mga kasong sapilit ng pagkawala, kagaya ng kaso ni Empeño at Cadapan, 8 taon na ang nakakaraan at ngayon naman ay kina Salonga at Cadao, ayon kay Dangla, ay mga krimeng paglabag, karapatang pantao, at walang puwang sa sibilisado at itinuturing na demokratikong bansang kagaya ng Pilipinas.
At sa iba pang balita, Makabayan Black handang-handa na para sa impeachment laban kay B.S. Aquino. Handa na kami. Ganito ang pahayag ni Kabataan Party List Representative Terry Ridon noong nakaraang Sabado, kasunod ng mga ulat na ang pamunuan ng House of Representatives ay magpapasa ng impeachment complaints laban kay Presidente Aquino sa House of Justice Committee sa nakatakdang plenaryo ngayong Lunes, Agosto 11. Sinabi din ni Speaker Feliciano Belmonte na naitransmit na nito ang impeachment complaints laban sa Pangulo Aquino kay Majority Floor Leader Naftali Gonzales III, ang chairman ng Committee on Rules, upang maisama sa mga tatalakayin sa plenaryo at sa pagtatalakay sa Justice Committee. Magsisimula lamang impeachment proceedings pagkaraang maipasa ito sa Justice Committee. Si Ridon mula sa Kabataan Party List ang siyang nag-endorso ng pangalawang impeachment complaint laban kay Pangulong Aquino. Ayon pa sa kanya, ang mga mambabatas na kabilang sa Makabayan Black ay handang-handa na upang talakayin at ipagtanggol ang merito na pinail na impeachment complaints. Sa 23 pahinang complaint na isinumiti sa tanggapan ng House of Secretary General, noong Hulyo 22, 25 kabataan at estudyante ang nag-file ng complaint sa pamumuno ng Youth Act Now. Nananawagan si Ridon sa House Justice Committee sa pamumuno ni Representative Neil Tupas, kilalang kaalyadong Pangulo Aquino, na masusing siyasatin ang merito ng impeachment complaints at huwag gayang mawalang saysa ito dahil lamang sa kapartido nito ang Pangulo.
DAP ni Aquino pagkontrol sa burokrasya ayon sa NDF consultant. Ayon sa nakakulong na NDF consultant na si Roy Erecre, ang Disbursement Acceleration Program o DAP ay isang paraan upang kontrolin ni Aquino ang burokrasya. Ano bang kaunlaran ng nasimulan ni Aquino samantalang talagang nais niya i-kontrolin niya ang lahat na gaya ng gawain ng isang diktador at ito ay sa pamamagitan ng kanyang DAP? Ang pahayag ni Erecre na isa sa 15 nakakulong na NDF consultant. Ang kanyang amang si Ninoy ay lumaban sa diktadura, ngunit itong si B.S. Aquino ay naging isang diktador. Ang kanyang ina na si Cory ang siyang nagpalaya sa mga bilanggong politikal sa kabila ng madugong programa ng counterinsurgency, pero si Noynoy ay kakaiba. Si Recre, 50 taong gulang ay naaresto noong Mayo 7, 2014 sa Barangay Bajada, Davao City at ngayon nakaharap sa gawa-gawang kasong pagnanakaw. Kasalukuyan siyang nakakulong sa Bohol District Jail. Kinikilala ng NDFP ang dokumento na rekre bilang NDF consultant na may ID number ND 978243. Sa ilalim nitong alias na pangalang Vide Alguna noong Abril 20, 2001, kinilala ni Sylvester H. Bello, dating bahagi ng GRP Negotiating Panel na si Rekre ay NDF consultant para sa Visayas.
At yan po ang ating mga pinakahuling balita at habang kinokontak po natin ang ating panauhin ay magpapatugtog po muna tayo ng isang awitin para po sa inyong lahat.
Pagiging babae sa lipunang malupit ay puno ng hirap at sakit. Ang pagsasalita'y pag-aanyaya sa dahas na laging nakaamba. Hinagpis ay di maipakita. Ang babae at bayan ay laging nagdurusa sa bangis ng pagsasamantala. Sa malalim na sugat ng pandarahas ay buhay ang katarungang hangad na ang mapi ay hindi na muli. Ang paghuhulagpos ay mayroong panahon. Ang panahon na iyon ay ngayon. Kasama ng bayan na magpupunyagi ang babae sa paglayang mithi. Pagiging mulat sa hindi pantay na pagtingin. Ang hindi pagkibo ay pag-aanyaya sa higit pang dahas at banta. Lakas natin ay ipakita. Ang paghuhulagpos ay mayroong panahon. Ang panahon na iyon ay ngayon. Kasama ng bayan na magpupunyagi sa paglayang mithi. Ang babae sa paglayang mithi.
Nagbabalik tayo sa Radyo Migrante. Sa inyo pong hindi nakakaalam ng kaso ni Lilia Ordinario Joaquin, babasahin ko po yung article mula dito sa Philippine Reporter. Ang sabi dito ay may petition nga ang Neighborhood Legal Services para sa kanya. Ang article ay ganito: Lilia Joaquin entered Canada in 2007 and in good faith completed all the requirements of the live-in caregiver program. She lived with a family for over 2 years and provided care for their 4 children under the age of 8. Once those 2 years were completed, Lilia was eligible to apply for permanent resident status and an open work permit, and so she did. However, during the years 2009 to 2011, Citizenship and Immigration Canada had a terrible backlog in processing those applications. Former nannies couldn't get their open work permits until their PR applications were given first stage approval. Lilia didn't get her open work permit until almost 2 years later. CIC later changed its policy, and out of recognition of the hardship those delays were causing former caregivers, and so from December 2011 onwards, open work permits were issued quickly and separated from that first stage approval. Unfortunately, it was too late for Lilia. During the 2 years she waited for her work permit, Lilia lost her employment. It took her 5 months to find a new employer willing to do all the paperwork for a new live-in caregiver contract, because it was still the only kind of work Lilia was allowed to do. And then a further 3 more months for that paperwork to be processed. So Lilia was desperate for income, and her children back home relied on her remittances. So Lilia made the grave mistake of doing some part-time babysitting for that second employer while they waited for the paperwork to be approved. For this, Lilia's dreams for a future in Canada have been dashed. Her application for permanent residence was ultimately refused. The government found she misrepresented when she at first did not tell them about the unauthorized babysitting, although she admitted it freely during her first interview with the CIC official. But the Canadian government has taken no responsibility for its role in putting Lilia in that difficult situation. Presently, issuance of open work permits only takes about 3 months. If that had been the case during Lilia's processing, she never would have been forced to break the rules. And this is unfair. And the petition ends, Minister Alexander, we urge you to allow this hard-working woman to remain in Canada and be processed under the live-in caregiver class. Mamaya po ay makakasama din natin si Lilia on phone patch para magbigay ng kanyang mga iniisip at mga opinion tungkol sa kanyang kaso.
At kakausapin natin si Attorney Jennifer Stone ngayon. Nasa telepono siya ngayon. Pwede natin siyang kausapin, Tita Pet.
Okay. Good evening, Attorney. We call lawyers in our country attorney.
Good evening. Hello.
Good evening. We're happy that you have guested on our show.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. We would like to go straight to the point of our discussion, and wondering whether you can give us a brief background on Lilia's case, and that would include, of course, what your thoughts are on her deportation order, and why you think that it is just for her to stay in Canada and be given a permanent resident status.
Okay. So I'm assuming that you and your audience are probably pretty aware of the Living Caregiver Program.
Yes.
But maybe just very, very briefly, as you likely know, predominantly women are admitted since 2009, I believe, have been admitted into Canada under the name so named Living Caregiver Program, and so long as they provide at least 24 months or 2 years of live-in caregiving, so living in the home, providing care to children or elderly persons or persons with disabilities, then they are entitled to apply for permanent residence. So it's a wonderful program. I think the path to permanent residence was the right thing for Canada to do. But as you know, often between applying for permanent residence after those first 2 years and actually getting landed, that can take a long time. And so women are entitled, I say women because it's predominantly women who I think avail themselves of the program. Women are entitled to an open work permit in order to sort of kind of unshackle them from the living caregiving work that they've already fulfilled. So in Lilia's case, she did everything right. She fulfilled her 2 years of providing live-in caregiving to a family with 4 young children for over 2 years. She applied for her permanent residence and her open work permit, but then she waited and waited because she was caught, unfortunately, during this period of really egregious delay between 2009 and 2011. It was quite a notorious period of time where the open work permits were not being issued in a timely fashion. So in Lilia's case, she waited almost 2 years. It was 23 months before she would get her open work permit. So she's calling immigration's telecenter, what's going on with my open work permit, what's going on. She unfortunately lost her first job. So she's calling, where's my open work permit? She's just being told it's in process. So finally, after 5 months of no income, not working, her family back home relying on her remittances, she found another employer willing to do all the paperwork. So the new labor market opinion, the new work permit. And it's a big thing to find somebody willing to do all of that, for a babysitter. And while they waited for that paperwork to be processed, Lilia provided some part-time under-the-table babysitting for that family. And for that, she's being very, very severely punished. Her application for permanent residence was refused, and she's been ordered deported from Canada. So I think it's a real injustice. It strikes me that in her case, the fix was in. If she had gone on welfare, she wouldn't be punished in this way. But for having, had the audacity to actually feed herself and support her family when she really was kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, I think it's a great injustice that her entire application and the future of her children who would have come has all been refused.
Okay. Cases like Lilia's make people say that the LCP has come short of its promises about giving caregivers a pathway to permanent residency. Could you please give us a comment about this?
Yeah, well, I think that her case certainly highlights it. I think that her case it sends a really chilling message out to people who participate in the living caregiving program, because it kind of has this. It sort of reflects a bit of a gotcha approach. Sort of it. I think it illustrates that women are really on tenterhooks while they're not only doing the 2 years of living care, but continue to be on those tenterhooks during the years it takes for immigration to process their cases towards, finally permanent residence. And, I think that there really needs to be a more facilitative approach and a more compassionate approach to the circumstances that living caregivers come to Canada under. I think that maybe the government is being a bit willfully blind to the fact that so many of these women have left their own children behind and, have made this tremendous sacrifice due to grinding poverty in order to provide a better future for their children. And so I think it's really disingenuous to expect women to be able to sit in Canada, 5, 6, 8, 23 months without their next open work permit, expecting them to be able to somehow survive while they wait for the paperwork to be processed here. I think it's blind to the reality that living caregivers and most people find themselves, and I certainly would have a hard time going 5 months without a paycheck. I don't know about you, but I think there's not a lot of people who could go that long without earning some kind of income.
And it's not only not having the income, but not having the income to send to the family back home, which is,
That's right.
an added pressure there, which is the very reason why they came over here. And so, but immigration a long time ago it was generous enough to give permanent residency to domestic workers who came in right away. And and now that they have educated caregivers with very good caring skills and very good education as a background, and are from a very caring people, I wonder why you have this more strict implementation of seeing to it that they do the requirements properly, and there are additional obstacles afterwards. Can you it's like why are they being punished now more strictly?
It's a good question. I'll be honest with you, I don't know. I don't have the answer. I have seen that greater enforcement measures have been taken across the board in all immigration streams. And I think it's really the increased resources that Canada Border Services Agency and the increased powers that agency has been given over the last 10 years. It translates into capacity to enforce immigration rules. So, and Canada Border Services Agency doesn't come from it doesn't kind of have the same humanitarian and compassionate, discretionary decision-making culture that I think Citizenship and Immigration Canada traditionally has. Its officers and civil servants come from to taking a case-by-case sort of look at each person's application. I've anecdotally I've been told that in the Greater Toronto area alone there have been well over 100 new CBSA officers hired in the last year or two. So I think that just seems to translate in my work to seeing a lot more people being kind of caught by strict, their applications being looked at with a really strict eye. Any slight deviance from immigration rules is being sort of pounced upon without a look at the bigger picture.
Right. This is So, but I'm trying to guess now. If hypothetically you are the immigration officer who was reviewing her case, what would you how would you have looked at it?
Well, if I would have looked at it, I would have, first of all, the immigration officer who decided her case, we actually compelled him to testify at Lilia's hearing, and he had some interesting things to say. He had interviewed her without an interpreter present, and he didn't give her an opportunity to to seek some legal advice and make submissions. He interviewed her and then refused her case and referred it for an admissibility hearing, all sort of very swiftly. When I asked him at the hearing how he thought she could have supported herself, 5 to 23 months into waiting for her open work permit, and he said, well, it was always available to her not to work. So that's not my problem. So it really struck me that he just didn't, it just seemed like such a disingenuous response. Also, what was interesting is that so her application was ultimately refused in 2012. Remember, she applied for permanent residence in 2009 after doing her 2 years in Canada. So in November 2011, that's when she got her open work permit. In December 2011, Immigration Canada, to sort of great fanfare and a press release and a press conference, they announced a change in the policy. They said, from now on, we are going to separate the first stage approval from the open work permit. Because it's been brought to our attention that a lot of women were forced to, work under the table while they waited for their open work permits, forced to break the rules, or forced, due to poverty and and we don't want that hardship to face women going forward, and so we're going to change this policy now. So I thought it was interesting. So we put that question to him as well. Like, didn't you see the relevance of CIC's own change in policy to this case before you? This case exemplified the very hardship that they were trying to remedy by changing the rules. And he said, to me, that was not relevant. That change in policy was only relevant for people from December 2011 onwards applying for an open work permit. So sort of, I think there was a lack of vision about the big picture.
Right.
The big picture, yeah.
So what are Lilia's legal options now?
Well, Lilia has a number of supporters in the Philippine community who are pressing Minister Chris Alexander, the Minister of Citizenship and Immigration, who have appealed to his office to exercise discretion in her favor. So her deportation date is set for August 22nd. It's a little less than 2 weeks away. We're still hoping that there may be some reprieve. But in the meantime, we have asked Canada Border Services to defer her removal until such time as she has an application, basically a humanitarian and compassionate application in process. So we've asked them not to deport her until at least she gets that properly looked at, because the humanitarian and compassionate factors were never properly looked at when her application was refused. And so if Canada Border Services refuses her request for a deferral, then we will go to federal court and ask a judge to stop her deportation on those same grounds.
Attorney Stone, this is Louis Kianio. Hello. Would you think that there is actually deception in terms of the policy under the LCP or in immigration programs or policies? Do you see any deception there, especially for the caregivers? Because we have seen so many issues regarding deportation or some which are mostly the caregivers are affected. Do you see any problems with the policy in immigration in the LCP program?
I think I guess maybe I'm just going to be repeating what I've already said. I think if there's any deception, it's in maybe a willful blindness to the fact that women come here because I think for a lot of women, they come because it provides for a better future for their children. I think it's the concurrent processing of the overseas dependence that they get to enjoy when they apply for permanent residence. That's a really big part of the program. If you look at it close up, and the women who avail themselves of the program, I have had other clients who say, if it weren't for the opportunity to get permanent residence and have my family come, I would have stayed in Hong Kong. I would have stayed in Singapore. At least then I can go home and see my family more frequently. It's not so expensive. I think so. I think the issue of poverty and of family reunification is, I think that there's not enough consideration of those really compelling factors given when decision makers are considering these cases.
Well, unfortunately, we don't have enough time, Attorney Stone, but we would like to ask you for a message to our listeners, especially for Lilia and for the Filipino community.
Well, I guess I just think that Lilia's case, for me, it makes me so sad. It makes me sad as a Canadian, as a lawyer who believes in fair process, as a woman and as a mother myself. I think of all the caregivers who have left their children behind and made these great sacrifices to come here, and I think this is it's a sort of a global women's issue, and I hope that listeners who feel compelled might go online and look for the petition. There's a change.org petition in support of Lilia's case, and everyone who signs that petition, it will generate an email to the Minister of Citizenship and Immigration, Chris Alexander. He will get an email saying yet another person supports some discretion in Lilia's case. So I urge listeners to sign that petition and show their support in that way.
Thank you very much, Attorney, and good luck
Thank you very much.
Thank
for
you,
having me.
Attorney. Babasahin ko po ngayon ang sulat ni Lilia Ordinario Joaquin. I'm Lilia Ordinario Joaquin, a caregiver under the Live-In Caregiver Program. I came to Canada in 2007 in hope of providing a better future for my family in the Philippines. I am the sole breadwinner for my family since my husband has no permanent job. It's been a long struggle for me to be away from my family, but I endured the hardships in hope of becoming a permanent resident someday. Since I came to Canada, I worked hard in taking care of my employer's 4 children and did my best to become a productive member of the community. I became a volunteer at Jesus is Lord Church, Canada East, and I Care Foundation International, a non-profit organization. I'm also a volunteer at Christie Community for Cleanliness, assisting in feeding the homeless, retirement home visitation, senior ministering, and participating in various fundraising programs. I regret the mistakes I did in the past, and I am thankful that the Government of Canada had this live-in caregiver program which serves as a pathway for family reunification. I am hoping that my petition to stay in Canada would be granted under the humanitarian and compassionate ground. I have a good intention staying here in Canada, which is to serve my family, my community, and Canada as a whole. To all the community leaders, all those who signed the online petition, and also the people from Toronto Star who first published my story, thank you. And to everyone for their help and support in regards to my petition to stay here in Canada. I am gaining my strength because of the love, understanding, and support that I received from all of you. Thank you for giving me hope at the very moment that I needed. Yan po ang sulat ni Lilia.
Yeah, and thank you, Tita Pet, for reading that letter from Lilia Ordinario Joaquin. For people who want to sign the petition, they can look it up at change.org and type Lilia Joaquin or LCP, and you see the petition there and read the other details. And as Tita Pet was trying to read the letter, we are also here trying to get in touch with Lilia because she's on the road right now, and technically we have some difficulties in reaching out to her.
Or pag-usapan natin synthesis, no?
Yeah,
pag-usapan
exactly.
natin yung pinag-usapan nating talakayan tungkol kay Lilia para bago tayo po patalastas. Tita Pet?
Oo.
Ano sa palagay mo?
Maganda yung sagot sa atin ni Attorney Stone, ano? Na ang problema nga daw, hindi nakikita yung buong kondisyon, no, yung kalagayan ng ng mga caregivers, no, hindi nakikita yung bakit sila umalis ng Pilipinas, para saan sila nagpunta sa sa Canada, ano yung kanilang gustong gawin dito, bakit sila nagtatrabaho ng ganito ka sipag at katapat sa kanilang mga trabaho, kahit na kuminsan mababa ang sahod, kuminsan may mga employer pa nga na hindi daw nagbibigay on time ng kanilang mga sweldo. Yung marami silang kinakaharap na mga suliranin, no? At kung may mga biglang nakikitang problema dun sa kalagayan na kunyari kamukha nga nito na 2 taon siyang walang trabaho at walang open permit kasi kailangan niya maghanap ng ibang klaseng trabaho na naging against her.
Mm-hmm. At isa pang dagdag doon, hindi isolated case yung kay Lilia Ordinario Joaquin, kasi madaming kaso tayong nababasa sa dyaryo, sa media, mainstream media, about other people, like for example itong si Jonah Pineda na nasa British Columbia naman. At similar case, there is a pending deportation order already for her to leave Canada. So madami pa tayong mga kuro-kuro about that, and we'll get up next is our Pulso na Migrante. So we asked different people about their perspectives about the case of Lilia Ordinario Joaquin.
Ako si Roberto David, nagtatrabaho sa IGI or the International Group Incorporated as a quality control technician. At hinihingan ako ng opinion tungkol dito kay Lilian, tungkol sa kanyang appeal sa gobyerno ng Canada. Nabigyan siya ng permanent status. Supportahan po natin siya, mga kababayang Pilipino na nandito sa Canada, na siya ay bigyan ng pagkakataon na magkaroon ng permanent status sa Canada. Makisaputahan niya sa kanyang appeal na siya ay patawarin sa kung ano man ang naging kasalanan niya at bakit siya pinapauwi ng Pilipinas. Dapat po ay siya ay patawarin ng gobyerno.
Ted Lee, Chief Steward of Unifor Local 27C. In my consideration, I believe that Lillian should be granted status for Canada. Through no fault of her own, she was held back.
Cassandra Tooley. I'm a shift clerk at International Group Inc. in Agincourt. And I definitely think that Lillian should be able to work here, considering that she followed the appropriate requirements and waited the allotted time. And especially given that they've changed the protocol recently, I think that she should be able to go through with the work permit. So immigration's hard sometimes, but they're hardworking people and deserve to be here if they're following the proper procedures. So.
Pangalan ko po ay si Rufino Abanzado. Ako po isang laborer sa International Group Incorporated. Ang tungkol dito, ang masasabi ko lang po, totoo, nagkamali siya doon sa kanyang pinasukang babysitting. So, for consideration sa kanyang kalagayan, ay bigyan siya ng chance dahil pinaghintay naman siya ng 2 taon. May pamilya po siyang nangangailangan ng tulong sa Pilipinas. So, sa palagay ko, yun ang nagtulak sa kanya na maghanap ng trabaho. Sa gayon din po, ay nung in-interview siya ng ating gobyerno, I think she was honest enough na sabihin niya yung totoo. Kasi hindi naman niya akalain, palagay ko, na papurusahan siya ng ganon sa pagsasabi niya na totoo. So, kung maaari, bigyan siya ng pagkataon. Pag siya ay naging legal na dito na magtrabaho, then pwede nilang pagbayarin siya doon sa amount ng tax o kung kailan man siya nag-start doon sa trabahong yan. Installment basis. Gaya ng ibang mga sitwasyon na gano'n. Mga ibang senaryo na nagbabayad ng tax yung tao. So, nakikiusap kami in behalf sa kay Lilia na nawa po ay bigyan siya ng isa pang pagkakataon para naman matulungan nila ang kanya pamilya sa paghihintay niya ng 2 taon sa approval ng gobyerno. Maraming salamat po. Yun lang ang masasabi ko tungkol diyan.
Ian Henderson, I'm a pumpman at IGI. I believe that applicant should be given her landed status in Canada. She has maintained employment throughout this time. She has followed the guidelines, and the fact that she might have stepped outside the boundaries to support herself and her family while living in Canada, I believe should go towards a positive in her abilities to seek employment, to maintain employment, and she's a perfect candidate to have the landed status living in Canada. You know, she did what she needed to do, but at the same time, she has to support herself, and she has family and other commitment. There's people in the city here who have been living here their whole lives, say they can't find a job, but it's amazing how people come from other countries and are able to find jobs. So there are jobs here. It's just that certain people don't want to do certain jobs. She's willing to work, so allow her to stay in the country and work and contribute.
My name is Sabir Hussain, and I'm a supervisor in International Group, which is located in Scarborough area. Like you mentioned about that lady, I'm really feel sorry for her. But I will say who sponsored that lady, she's supposed to contact that gentleman, and they give him a letter. So the past 2 years, she was very good, and she paid taxes and everything's done. And because of a lot of big volume of applications, and she didn't get her second response. So I would recommend your church can recommend her and give a letter and also you have to contact your member of parliament, which is your area member of parliament. The both person can write a letter about that lady. And the church, she was also working in the, like you mentioned, she was working in the volunteer and the mosque, in the church. Nanny is a good job, and she deserves for as a landed immigrant, and I hope she will get the landing immigration.
This is Ash Ghosh, and I work in as a quality control, and I feel that Lillian should be allowed to stay, and she should be granted her status, because it's not fair that Canada, we are a very multicultural, and we are a very generous country, and we always stood right from like our foundation. We've always stood for liberty and fairness, and what is going on with this lady is that it's not fair. And that's a very non-Canadian of doing that. And by honoring the charter, and the government should own the right to, and grant her the status. That's what I believe.
Hi there, this is Kevin Erdell of Oshawa, Ontario. I recently read the article on Lilia, and in my opinion, what's likely happened here is an underworked, overpaid government worker has rejected her claims, as she was an easy target and they needed to fulfill their quota for the day. I believe our government needs to stop wasting our resources on people like Lilia and start focusing on keeping the criminals out and keeping those out who shouldn't be here in the first place. Anyways, Lilia, I hope you're successful in staying here. It appears you're a very hard-working person, and your intentions are honest, and good luck.
Ang babae sa paglayang mithi, ang babae sa paglayang mithi.
Okay, Tita Pet, balikan lang po natin yung Gates survey na isinagawa ninyo last year. Ano-ano po yung mga findings?
Itong survey at saka focus groups nangyari nga last year, no, pero kasalukuyan pa lang namin ina-analyze yung mga findings diyan, na hindi pa namin mga initial pa lang, no, pero nakikita na namin mula pa dun sa mga unang analysis namin, no, and we did this together with caregivers who participated in the survey and the focus groups. Nalaman namin na ang maraming problema kapag andyan sila dun sa transition period mula doon sa LCP, no, tapos nila yung 2 years live-in requirement, tapos nag-a-apply na sila for open work permit saka for permanent residency. Mahaba yan. At yung 2 years na yan, hindi yan rare. Ordinaryo nga yan, no? So, anong gagawin nila? No, wala silang gaanong savings, wala rin silang naibibigay sa kanilang mga kamag-anak. So, paano naaawa na lang yung ibang employer nila, lang yung kanilang kontrata para magkaroon sila ng trabaho pa doon sa Pero yun na nga, wala silang open work permit. So, paano yun? Hindi sila makapag-aral, no? Na kung itataya natin yung konting pera na meron pa tayo para makapag-aral, hindi naman natin magagawa yan dahil hindi ka rin allowed to do that. So maraming requirements na parang nakakulong ka during that waiting period.
At maraming salamat, Tita Pet, dun sa additional na mga commentary. Bago ang mga announcement, congratulations sa matagumpay na paglulunsad ng Public Forum on Resource Extraction, Militarization, and Indigenous Rights nitong nakaraang Agosto 7 sa pangunguna ni Father Rex Reyes na siyang pangkalahatang kalihim ng National Council of Churches in the Philippines o NCCP, at sa pagkipagtulungan ng United Church of Canada at ICHRP. Mabuhay kayo. Nananawagan ang grupong akdaan makontribusyon para sa kanilang ikalawang aklat na ilulansad sa Disyembre ngayong taon. Maaring magpadala ng inyong mga likhang sining, katulad ng mga tula, kwento, salaysay, sanaysay at iba pang mga forma ng malikhaing panulat. Maaaring i-email ang grupong akdaan at yahoo.ca hanggang sa katapusan ng Setyembre 2014 o kaya tumawag sa 647-905-5969 para sa makaragdagang impormasyon.
Buklurang Pilipino sa Downsview or Filipino Solidarity in Downsview. Sa pakikipagtulungan ng Downsview Public Library at Akdaan Collective, maglulunsad ang Buklurang Pilipino sa Downsview ng storytelling program for Filipino youth. Inaanyayahan ng lahat na dumalo sa pagbasa ng mga kwentong atin para sa kabataang Pilipino simula ngayong Agosto 14 at Agosto 21 mula alauna ng hapon hanggang alas 3 ng hapon sa 2793 Kiel Street sa panulukan ng Kiel at Wilson. Ito ang unang proyekto ng Buklurang Pilipino at bilang pakikiisa sa pagdiriwang sa buwan ng Agosto bilang buwan ng wikang Pilipino. Sa mga karagdagang impormasyon, makipag-ugnayan kay Terrell Knox Magbanua sa telepono bilang 647-720-0087.
At maraming salamat sa lahat ng guests natin ngayong gabi. Maraming salamat Ate Mary, Kuya Louie, sa board at Tita Pet. At idadagdag pa ng salamat sa volunteer, mga interesadong mag-volunteer sa Radyo Migrante.
Salamat lang kay Randy.
Email. At huling awitin natin ay
kakukuha ko lang kasi hindi ko makita yung ito na yung
alright. Maraming salamat at makinig kayo ulit sa susunod na linggo. At ang susunod ay si Roy Green ng Odyssey.